of a conference next week. They're making decisions very fast. All of these companies know that their reputations can be destroyed by social media if people don't like what is happening in their relations with the Saudis. You wish that politicians could move that fast. You wish that the White House could kind of learn the same sort of lesson. At the moment, the indications from the White House are they think they can tough this one out, that if they can just leave it enough time, the story will die down and they can get back to business as usual. And it really is being driven by Jared Kushner, who has this particularly close relationship with MBS, very reluctant to interrupt that relationship. The sales aren't that big. If it's only 10% of what the president is saying, $10 billion, it's much less than what the president is saying. And I think Joe said this in the last hour. You have to wonder what it is that's really driving this. Is it the president's own financial interests rather than the country's? Yeah, Gene Roberts.
There has been an uncritical acceptance by this administration of everything that Mohammed bin Salman has done, really. Yeah. He's waging a war in Yemen that is killing civilians by the scores and hundreds and thousands. He kidnapped the prime minister of Lebanon and held him there for a while. He's done all these outrageous things. And this administration just accepted it. And so I'll ask my colleague Bob Woodward. Bob, do you have a sense of, is it the Trump family's and Kushner family's financial interests with the Gulf
I don't have any evidence of that, but it's important to always listen to what Trump says, and he's saying this is about money and contracts. And if you go to the internal debates in the White House, which I've spent some time on, Trump always raises money, and it's about the money the U.S. is spending for forward deployed troops in South Korea, Europe, the Middle East, and he thinks somehow that's for those countries and it's not part of our own security. And as a group, all the national security people who are it's his team, they say, no, that's the best money we could spend. It's a good thing. And Trump will literally say, we're being played for suckers.
Money is what he understands in every context.
Yes, but he's not out there trying to get money for the federal government. It's not the Trump organization. This money is spent for good purposes, and when you get into a situation with somebody like MBS where look, the target is Iran, Saudi Arabia, Israel, other countries working, and they're obsessed with Iran, and they have some good reason to be concerned about that, but you don't make that compromise, and that's the mistake, and that's why I keep saying it's a casino. And everything, if you go into the Trump casino and there's a blackjack table over here, there's a policy, let's do this with the deficit, let's do things that are a gamble. And there's a great book done in the Reagan administration by Larry Barrett, the Time magazine correspondent, called Gambling with History. And we know Reagan gambled with history, but when he did it in a much more cautious, restrained way. When he went to Berlin, Reagan did, and said about Gorbachev, tear down this wall. He did not say, my nuclear button is bigger than yours.
It was values-based.
Yes, right. But that's what Trump said on North Korea, and there is this sense of risk.
So, Bob, it's Willie in New York. The Republicans have not held back over the last couple of days. Senator Bob Corker, who, of course, is the chair of the Foreign Relations Committee, said, quote, there is no question the Saudis did this. No question in his mind. He's seen intelligence. He says everything points to Saudi Arabia. It would appear Khashoggi is not alive. You had Senator Rand Paul saying the president should immediately halt arms sales and military support to Saudi Arabia. So if it's so clear to so many people who've seen and heard intelligence, why did the president hedge the way he did yesterday, questioning whether or not Khashoggi was a citizen, saying, hey, we can't give up $110 billion arms deal over this? What's he up to here?
Well, it's a gamble, and there are important policy considerations, but this has crossed a line that is unacceptable, and there's a way, and Trump knows how to do this, talk tough. But the Republicans, let's not kid ourselves. They'll go out rhetorically and say, oh, we've got to do something. Trump has to do this or that, and, let's wait a week. Nothing will happen.
1,000 trees will give their lives, Mika, for congressional records to be printed out with Jeff Flake's words on them. And the net effect is that those trees, those thousands of trees, will have died in vain because he will just keep talking and never actually do anything that changes the arc of this twisted foreign policy.
He will look deeply concerned, too, when he's saying it.
Yes, he will look quite mournful and then go along and kowtow to whatever the president wants him to do, as will all the Republicans. Bob Corker, I'm going to be very curious to see what Bob Corker does, because he stepped up to the line. He wasn't going to vote for a tax bill that increased the national debt. He ended up actually voting for a tax bill that blew a hole in the national debt. We get a lot of tough tweets, a lot of tough speeches, and then we get Republicans retreating and then cowering in the corner. Okay, this is yet another test. We'll see if they fail this test as well. But think about this, and I'm not being glib when I say this. Think about how U.S. foreign policy would be different today, and I'm dead serious, if Donald Trump had built properties in London, in Paris, in Berlin, and in the Baltics, instead of raising money from Russia, Saudi Arabia, building a Trump Tower in Manila, and other places in Turkey, in other places where Donald Trump's making money, where autocrats rule. What a difference it would make. This is, as we've said from day one, if you want to understand why Trump buckled, why he looked like a coward yesterday, just like he looked like a coward in Helsinki, at the end it doesn't come down to bad deals the United States have made in the past. It comes down to deals that Donald Trump wants to make in the future when he leaves as a one-term president and tries to cash in on the presidency.
Okay, and John Harwood, thank you for being in. Before you go, what do you think of the market drop and Trump blaming it on the Fed?
Well, the Fed is doing precisely what Donald Trump said it should do when Barack Obama was president. He said that Janet Yellen and Ben Bernanke had kept rates low, created a bubble in the stock market for political reasons, okay? Everyone on the right has been arguing for years that the accommodative stance of the Fed should be phased out. Now that is happening, and it is having an effect on the stock market, they don't like it. It's not, again, as with Trump, there's nothing that is consistent and principled and values-based. It's all transactional in the immediate moment that he's operating in. And so when something, a prospective action might help President Obama, he's against it. When it might help him, he's for it. And that's what he's doing on the stock market. Fortunately, for the good of the country, Jay Powell seems to be an independent type at the Fed, which, of course, the Fed is supposed to be independent, and is going to conduct his business the way he wants to conduct it.
Okay, and also, John Harwood, in light of the Kanye Oval Office disaster yesterday, check out CNBC.com. Your interview with John Legend, Kanye comes up in that as well. So thanks for being on this morning. Still ahead on Morning Joe, it's easy to pass off the lock her up chant as kind of a punchline in a concert-like rally. But President Trump said quite earnestly yesterday that Hillary Clinton, quote, should be in jail. Clinton tweeted back at the president, and somehow we're all still living in 2016. You're watching Morning Joe. We'll be right back.
Okay. My name is Elaine Barber, and I'm a 5-year cancer survivor. Surviving for 5 years, it's a big deal. I had so many people at CTCA helping me find a way to go through the treatments. The reality of cancer is not everybody survives. at CTCA. They have a huge Celebrate Life event. That was amazing because the whole day was about all of the survivors. I'm excited about my future.
Visit cancercenter.com to schedule an appointment now.
Got that vibe, got that vibe, got that vibe. Yeah, I ain't pretty looking fly.
Taxes, hidden fees, or contracts. Call today and save. Call 855-731-5041.
People like Devin Nunes, he should get, if this all turns out like everyone thinks it will, Devin Nunes should get the Medal of Honor. He is really what he's gone through and his bravery. He should get a very important medal. Maybe we'll call it the Medal of Freedom because we actually give them the high awards for civilians.
There is a Medal of Freedom. President Trump in a phone interview with Fox News yesterday suggesting that Congressman Devin Nunes deserves the Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian honor for his, quote, bravery in pushing back against Robert Mueller's Russia probe. Joe, my dad got the Medal of Freedom. I don't know. I don't see a parallel. He's lost me yet again on this one.
I love how Donald Trump goes, hey, we could call it the Medal of Freedom, and then after we do that, maybe I got another great idea. Why don't we get the best baseball players throughout history, and we'll put all of their records and plaques in one big building, and we'll call it the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that would be cool.
In this case, though, Casey Hunt, you even have Republicans in the Senate who loathe Devin Nunes, Republicans on the Intel Committee in the Senate who look at him as a bumbling fool who is an embarrassment. I think Donald Trump and maybe 3 or 4 members of the Freedom Caucus may be the only people who aren't embarrassed of Devin Nunes when he walks by them in the hall.
Even people who used to be close to Devin Nunes, the House Speaker, for example, now you speak to people in that circle and they wonder what has happened to Devin Nunes because he doesn't really bear much resemblance to the guy that they used to know, this California Republican. I mean, he is one of the few people, and we talk a lot on the show about how Republicans talk behind closed doors about this president, which is to say that they all wonder about the safety and future of the country and think what's going on is crazy, generally speaking. Devin Nunes is not one of those people. Devin Nunes is a true believer who is convinced that the deep state is out to get this president, and he wants to dig around as deeply as he can to try to expose it. And, quite frankly, other Republicans in Congress haven't done a lot to stop it. They've enabled it.
They have enabled it, which again, we've said it for some time, Willie, that's going to be part of Paul Ryan's legacy, that he has enabled the complete bipartisan, the destruction of the concept of a bipartisan Intel Committee, which has always been sacrosanct up on Capitol Hill. But Donald Trump is elevating a guy who the Justice Department and the FBI said was working hard, working overtime to expose the Intel community's means and some of their sources in a way that could endanger American Intel assets. That is who Donald Trump is praising.
Yeah, and that's been a frustration privately also to Republicans. This isn't just Democrats who were saying these things out loud about Devin Nunes. They've been frustrated the way he's handled intelligence. And again, the Medal of Honor line from Donald Trump, it's a throwaway line. And you don't want to get hung up on everything he says and every lie he tells, but it does, it's sort of an ongoing cheapening of language and cheapening of honors we have in this country. I wish Jack Jacobs were here, Colonel Jack Jacobs, who actually won the Medal of Honor. He might be able to explain to the president what it means to earn that.
Yeah, still ahead. We know Russia meddled in the 2016 election. We do not know what kind of direct impact Moscow had. But one of our next guests is certain that Russia's interference was crucial to Trump's win. We'll dig into that. And a programming note, this weekend, David Gura takes over the reins of the Up franchise beginning tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern. And Politics Nation with Reverend Sharpton is moving to a new time slot over the weekend and expanding to 2 days at 5 p.m. Eastern right here on MSNBC.
That's Must See TV.
Oh, yeah. Back in a moment.
a large donation from